Hey y'all, welcome to TXT Tells All, or welcome back if you're one of our subscribers. So, quarantining with COVID in Mexico. Have any of y'all thought, I want to go on vacation, but I know the requirements for many destinations is when you come back into the United States, you have to have a negative COVID test before returning. And you're scared, what if I go on vacation, everything's fine, and then I test positive for COVID and I can't come back? That happened to me. And if you want to know how that went, what did the hotel do? What did it look like? What were my symptoms? All of that. Make sure you watch this video till the end because I was that person. I went on vacation to Cancun, Mexico, and I got tested positive for COVID while I was there and could not come back here. Find out what happened. Stay tuned. All right, y'all. So first of all, I want to say that I am thankful that I recovered from COVID and that I'm fine now because I know COVID-19 is serious. People have lost their lives, and I definitely don't want to take this lightly. We are still going through a pandemic. This video and my testimony is living proof that people are still out here getting COVID-19. So be safe and mask up. But when I got tested positive for COVID while I was on vacation, of course, I had a mini panic attack at first, but I also was looking for information online. Like, did this happen to anybody else? I'm sure it has. What did they do? How long did they have to stay abroad? And all I had all those questions. And I did see some YouTube videos, but I thought it was really important for me to get on here and share with y'all my story because it can happen to any of us, right? People are starting to travel now. People are visiting family, traveling for business, or just traveling for, pleasure, going on a vacation like I did. And that's a concern. Am I going to be able to come back home? What will happen to me if I'm out of the country and I test positive for COVID? What about medical treatment? What is it going to look like? Does it matter if I'm vaccinated or not? Those are questions that I know I had when I got that positive test result. So that's what this video is going to go through. Let's start with, first of all, where I was. I was in Cancun, Mexico, on a 4-day vacation. Personal fun, had a great time. And to come back from Cancun, Mexico to the United States, I was coming back to Houston, Texas. You have to have a negative rapid test. So not a PCR, but a negative rapid antigen test 1 day before departure. So I had traveled to Cancun, Mexico in the past. Actually, during the pandemic, I traveled in 2021 and twice, and then you had to have a negative antigen test within 72 hours of your return. So things have changed a little bit to where you have to get it 1 day, 24 hours before. Initially, when I visited Cancun, Mexico, before during the pandemic, people would get there, and especially if they were staying for a short period of time. A lot of people were testing earlier in their vacation. Go ahead, test, get your test, and come back. Is that really the best for stopping the spread of COVID-19? I don't know. But that's what people were doing before. But now it's changed a little. So if you are traveling to Cancun, Mexico, be aware that you have to get a negative test result within 1 day of your travel back to the U.S. or wherever. I know traveling from Cancun, Mexico back to the United States, you have to have a negative COVID test as of right now. We don't know if that's going to change in the near future, but I just went on vacation within the last 2 weeks. So that is what is going on now in May of 2022. So, all right. So I go to Cancun, Mexico. I stayed at the Moon Palace Resort. Now, I really want to shout them out because, as I will talk about later on in this video, they did a fantastic job at making me feel as comfortable as possible under the circumstances. So, of course, having COVID-19 at the end of my vacation was not how I wanted to conclude my vacation, but staying at the Moon Palace Resort in Cancun, Mexico, I definitely received the best treatment from the hotel staff possible as far as testing, quarantining, making sure they checked on me, food, room service, all of that. So I want to talk about some more details about Moon Palace and their protocols as to COVID-19 because I think if you are considering an all-inclusive resort in Cancun, Mexico during this time and you're worried about the potential to test positive with COVID-19 and what is quarantine going to look like, check out Moon Palace because they definitely did a really, really good job. And I really felt comfortable being there during my quarantine process. All right, so like I said the Moon Palace all inclusive Cancun resort. A few really important things. So, if you test positive for COVID-19, they do provide one free test. So, one day before your departure, you schedule your test and then you test right there on hotel premises. That is included in your stay. So, you don't have to pay any extra for that test. When I went to test within, I would say about, so they test you and in one room and then you go to a different room and you sit and wait for your test results. So everybody is sitting in that room waiting. It's a large like ballroom size room, so there is room for social distancing, but depending on when you go and how many people are there, there's a considerable amount of people testing at the same time. So you test, then you go to the next room and you wait. Once I got my positive COVID-19 test result, they immediately will, hotel staff will take you to a different quarantine location. So I was originally staying in the building called Sol, SOL, and then they moved me to a different building. Honestly, I can't remember what the other building was, but they took me a different way, so kind of away from the public. So they took me in the back of that where the COVID-19 testing was being done, put me in a golf cart by myself, gave me a mask, and had me go to the quarantine room that I would be in for the rest of my stay until I tested negative for COVID. So, one important point, they do test you on the premises of the resort, which a lot of resorts are doing in Cancun. The other resorts that I stayed at, the Marriott in the hotel zone, test you on premises as well. Included in your stay, you get one free test. So Moon Palace did that. If you test positive, they immediately put you in quarantine. You do not go back to your room. You immediately go with the hotel staff and they put you in quarantine, which I thought was good to protect the safety of other guests. They have you wait for your test results and don't just have you wandering around just in case you're positive. They can immediately take you to quarantine and not have you potentially infecting other people. So just pause for a second. I'm gonna be real with y'all because when I got that positive test result on my phone, the results come straight to your phone, so you get an email with a PDF of your test results. I freaked out for a second because I'm thinking a lot of things. I'm thinking I'm traveling with people. I hope they're fine. I'm sitting in a room with a bunch of people. I've tested positive for COVID, and I know the reality is I'm going to have to quarantine. So what's going to happen next? Okay, so they take me to the quarantine room and they give me information that my stuff is going to be, my things that are in my original hotel room will be brought to me. My friend that I was staying with was actually able to bring my things to me, but if she had not done that, they would have brought all of my things to me to my new room. They told me the rules that I had to stay in that room. It was the same caliber room that I had, so it was a room with a balcony, a double bed, a jacuzzi in the room. It was really nice actually. So it wasn't like they took you from the nice room that you paid for and put you in a room with no windows. It wasn't like that at all. It was the same standard of the room that I had before, which was nice because I knew I was going to be there for a few days. And then it had a balcony. So although I couldn't leave the room and go anywhere, at least I had a balcony that I could go outside, get some fresh air during the days that I was there. Another important point with Moon Palace, they give you 5 days free of quarantine. So from the end of your original stay, they give you additional 5 days that you do not have to pay for to quarantine. And they allow you to test every day. So if you want, you can have a professional testing company that works with the hotel, the same people that performed the test originally. They will come and test you at your quarantine room each day. So you're not allowed to leave the room, but they tell you each day between a certain time, I have between 10 and 11, they will come and perform your test. So you put your mask on, you open up your hotel room door. The professionals are right there at your door. They have the kit to take your test. They take your test and then they wait at the door with you for your results. I did not test every day. I tested one day and then I skipped a day. And then because the professional told me that the result, it's a red line on the result that shows that you're positive. Mine was pretty bright, and that's a signal that if you test in 24 hours, you'd likely still be positive. So I skipped a day and then tested the next day. I still tested positive even after that. It took 4 days from my original positive test for me to test negative on a rapid antigen test. So for those of you trying to find out information on, well, you tested positive for COVID, you're abroad, how long did it take you to test negative? I tested negative 4 days after my original positive test. When I spoke with the professionals, they're doing this, they're dealing with the people at the hotel that are in quarantine. I was kind of before I tested negative, I was looking for average, how long are people usually here? They told me that it's an average. Some people test negative a day after. Some people take 14 days. So it really is no rhyme or reason on how long it's going to take you to test negative. So we talked about the hotel, Moon Palace Resort, all inclusive in Cancun. Great resort. I enjoyed my stay even before COVID-19, but for the purposes of this video, they really, really did a good job with their quarantine protocol and making sure that the guests, me in this case, felt comfortable during the stay during quarantine. So Moon Palace All Inclusive Resort in Cancun, I would definitely recommend. Second, they give you 5 days free of quarantine time. So after your original stay ends, if you test positive for COVID at Moon Palace, you get 5 days free, no charge at all. Um, After that 5 days, it is $199 per night. So if you don't test negative for COVID-19 on your fifth day after your original stay ended, and you still have to quarantine, they will not allow you to leave. You still have to test negative, but the charge for the stay is $199 per night, which is still less than their nightly rates on average, but obviously very expensive if you're one of those people who is not testing negative 10, 13, 14 days later. So I don't know what happens if there's a cutoff, but my understanding from what I was told and from the documentation that they made me sign is that you have to test negative before you can leave the hotel premises. So I was getting on a flight back to Houston, Texas. So I knew in order to get on that flight, I would have to present a negative COVID test. So I was quarantining until I got that negative test, which, like I said, I got on the fourth day. All right, so some of y'all are probably asking, what about food? You're trapped in this hotel room with no one. No one can be in the room with you. No family, no friends, no visitors. Only people that you have coming to the room are hotel staff if you need something, and the professionals coming to do your COVID test. So how do you eat? They have 24-hour room service, which it was great. So for the 4 extra days that I was there recovering from COVID-19, I had 24-hour room service. I could order whatever I want, just had to pick up the phone. The food was actually good. I had salmon, I had fish tacos, chicken fajitas, whatever you could think of. You just pick up the phone, you order it. One thing that was really, really important for me in my recovery was staying hydrated. So I was able to order bottled water all day long, as much as I needed, hot tea, honey, and I'll talk about some of my symptoms as we move on through this video. But don't worry about food. So at Moon Palace All Inclusive Resort, if you do test positive for COVID-19, they not only offer you those 5 days free, but you still continue to get 24-hour room service at no charge to you. So I mean, overall, if you get COVID-19 there and I did have some symptoms and I'll talk about those, but if you're overall okay and you just need some time to recover, just relax. Everything is pretty much taken care of for you. You don't have to worry about food. You don't have to worry about money. You just have to stay in your room and focus on your recovery. All right, so the only thing that I did have to pay for was the additional COVID-19 test. So after that first test, each test that you perform is $19 US. So if you want to do a test every day, you just have to know that it's $19 each time that you test. And that literally, when I checked out of the hotel, I didn't have to pay anything additional but those a $38 fee for the COVID test that I had. So overall, honestly, I mean, of course, nobody wants to be test positive for COVID-19. I tested positive towards the end of my vacation, so it was only the last day of my vacation that I technically missed. But like I said, I'm thankful and grateful because my recovery was quick. I did not have any symptoms at all when I tested positive for COVID-19. So I think this is a really important point. I was not feeling sick. I didn't have a fever or anything when I initially tested. When I got my positive test result, it was probably around 11 or 12 o'clock in the afternoon. I didn't start really having symptoms until maybe 8 to 9 p.m. that night. I got a fever, I had a sore throat, or I had the feeling we started to get a sore throat, and I started to feel tired. And I think the biggest symptom that I had was the fever. I was sweating. I didn't have a thermometer. I didn't walk with one on my vacation, but I knew I had a fever just based on how I was feeling. So I drank a lot of fluids, a lot of water, a lot of tea, and I just sweated out, slept. The next morning when I woke up, my fever broke. I did not have a fever anymore. The only symptom that remained was the sore throat, which I would say the sore throat I continued maybe for the next 2 days. And after that, it was completely gone. I didn't have a fever again. I did feel fatigued the second and third day after I tested positive. And then, like I said, the fourth day I tested negative. I didn't have any symptoms at that time, but like a stuffy nose. So kind of like if you had a cold and you would have a stuffy nose, that's all. That's the only symptom that I had left. So masked up, got on the plane, got back to Houston, tested again when I got back to Houston just to be sure, and tested negative when I got back to Houston again. So I had COVID before, about a year ago, before I was vaccinated. And I can definitely say that the difference between me getting COVID this time when I was fully vaccinated versus when I was not was glaring. When I first got COVID, when I wasn't vaccinated, I was sick for about, I would say, about 14 days. I had a fever for about 4 days. I think my fever was much higher. I had way more symptoms. I didn't have an appetite. I had nausea. I couldn't sleep. I had insomnia. I was coughing. I had runny nose. I had way more symptoms than I did this time when I was vaccinated. So I know everybody is different. Everybody's body is different. But just for informational purposes, when I was not fully vaccinated and I got COVID-19, I was way sicker than I was this time when I got COVID-19 and I was fully vaccinated. So I'm I can say, as far as me personally, I did the Moderna vaccine, and I could definitely tell the difference. This is my second time getting COVID while being vaccinated. So that is the story, y'all. Being in quarantine while on vacation, if you are lucky enough not to be seriously ill, which is not the case for anyone. So you really do have to be careful when you're traveling, because my story may not be the same as someone else's. But this is just something to know. When you go on vacation in Cancun, Mexico, one, you have to get a negative COVID test to come back. And two, it is a reality. If you test positive, they will put you in quarantine and you will not be getting on your flight. So if you're deciding to travel, just know that that is a possibility. For me, honestly, it wasn't that big of a deal because I did recover quickly, and also because I can work from anywhere. I didn't have like in-person hearings or anything. For those of you who don't know, I'm an attorney, and during that week I was able to work remotely, so I was still able to communicate with my clients. Moon Palace has good Wi-Fi. I didn't have any issues with that. I was actually able to do a mediation for my client while I was in quarantine. So overall, it was okay. But if you have been in quarantine abroad, comment below. Let us know, what was your experience? Was it like mine? Did the hotel treat you well? What happened? I know people really, really want to know this information, especially as summer is coming. People are traveling with their kids. They want to know, what are the risks, what might happen. So comment below if you have an experience, or if you just have any questions for me, something that I didn't cover. Comment below. I'll be happy to answer your questions. I think transparency is helpful because we're all going through this together. We don't know when we're going to get COVID, where we got it from, what's going to happen, and it's helpful to see other people's stories and see how they fared, especially getting COVID-19 on vacation. You're away from home. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what the hotel is going to do. So if you are looking for a hotel, I would suggest Moon Palace Resort All Inclusive in Cancun, Mexico, if you're looking for somewhere. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful. Thanks for watching, and make sure you check out our other videos on our channel.